Italy, just north of Milan, is going to host GP2. The sprint race this morning is going to be starting from pole position. It's going to be Riccardo Rosati, 1981 Carlos Reutemann, probably one of the most famous Argentinian racing drivers, started from pole position for the Italian Grand Prix, and Rosati has the honour of doing the same today. Big pressure for this young man who came into the season midway through as a result of the injury to his the driver for Trident, Pastor Maldonado. But it is going to be big pressure on him today. Gareth Rees joins me in the commentary box. And it's going to be very interesting to see whether Giorgio Pantano, who was perhaps the most dominant winner of a GP2 race we've seen, you know, as long as we can remember, can he come through from 8th on the grid to do what he did last year and win both races?
Yeah, we saw him yesterday in fine form, didn't we? Just as he was here last year. And you said he won here last year, started from 8th place on the grid last year, where he starts from today, and by the first turn he was actually leading the race. And again, yesterday he got a fantastic start. He clearly has got the car really well under him, and no reason at all why he can't repeat the feat and get a double win again here today.
As we look at the Drivers' Championship, Timo Glock extended his championship lead totally unexpectedly. The way that the race was panning out, he was down in 20th position at the beginning of the race as a result of having an off early on, and as the race gradually started to come to him, he was very, very calm and very cool and very thoughtful about the way he went about working his way through the pack. He didn't get himself into any unnecessary situations, and gradually worked his way through some very, very smooth overtaking manoeuvres as well. But then he was very, very fortunate to benefit from his main title rival, Lucas Di Grassi, who had a technical problem very late in the race, Gareth.
He did, and it basically looks like what was happening was Di Grassi's clutch was degrading over the course of the race. Obviously, Di Grassi didn't realise that, the team didn't realise that, but slowly over the course of the race, the clutch was getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where as he turned into the first corner at the start of the last lap, or last lap but one, the clutch basically stuck open. And obviously when the clutch is wide open, you can't get any power down if the power's not going through the transmission. He pulled off to the side of the road and sort of slowly crept towards a marshal's post. Half the field went past him as he was crawling past in neutral. All of a sudden, as he hit a little bump by the marshal's post, the clutch closed again and he was able to drive away as normal. But by then he dropped from 3rd place down to 14th, and it was all over.
Yeah, you could see that really by that stage it was totally out of his control in terms of being able to make some places up. Had that happened a little bit earlier, certainly on race pace, he may well have been able to work his way into a decent position. Big lockups there. Drivers, when they're warming the tyres up, they tend to run their left foot over the brakes as well, not just for the obvious reason of warming the brakes, but it tends to also sort of transfer heat via the brakes through the wheels into the tyres. And it's something that a lot of drivers tend to use as a technique to really get some heat into it. And it's interesting here because the tyre situation is different for Monza.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the hard compound this weekend, and obviously with the sprint race on a Sunday morning, there's no obligatory pit stop. On a Saturday afternoon, the feature race, you have to do at least one pit stop and have to change at least 2 wheels in that pit stop. Today they start on brand new rubber. Everyone starts on brand new rubber, that's the rules. There's no obligatory pit stop, so everybody today, unless they have a problem, will run straight through from start to finish with no stop. On the hard compound rubber, then that shouldn't be a problem. It should last pretty well.
But interesting also that pace that Pantano was showing late in the race. I mean, he was setting fastest lap after fastest lap, to the point where literally every lap in the last 4 or 5 laps he was going about 1/10 of a second quicker every time. So clearly he was very, very confident with the characteristics of the car in that situation that late in the race. So the drivers edge their way to the grid. Always a difficult situation for the poleman. Gareth, you've been on pole position many times in your career. You look in your mirror and you work out where everybody else is, and there's that horrible moment of hoping that everybody gets in position on time, so you don't sit there with your foot on the clutch or waiting to when to put the car in gear. What's the best approach?
Funny enough, I used to sit there with the clutch, with the car in gear and the clutch engaged. Clutch down rather, because I was just so worried about if I selected neutral and then when I needed to get a gear, it wouldn't go in. Sometimes racing car gearboxes can be a little bit difficult, a little bit temperamental to get into gear, and the last thing you need is problems like that. So I used to get the old shaky left leg sometimes, and this just seems to take so long when the rest of the field is stacking up behind you and the last car comes around the corner and gets in the position. It's an age. It's
a horrible situation, but it's going to be interesting to see how this young man deals with pole position. Riccardo Rosati, the young Argentinian driver, is going to start from pole position for Trident Racing. Alongside him is Sebastian Buemi, one of the hot shots from earlier in the season. Stunning qualifying at Monaco, and Who gets the drop? I think it's going to be Buemi, but outside of the front row there, look at who's got the drop. There's somebody diving at
Stormer.
Yeah, Pantano last year, you said he went from first to pole. Big lock up there as they turn into the first corner. And is everybody going to get through? Yesterday there was some contact on the exit of the last part of the chicane here, but it looks like everybody got through nice, neat and tidy. And it looked like Javi Villa made a fantastic run, but seems to have a problem. He's dropping back.
Yeah, he's going backwards, isn't he? Pantano got a great start from row 4, but actually got held up and boxed in. I think he's down at about 5th or 6th place now.
And Bruno Senna, another fantastic start for the young Brazilian. But Pantano, where is he?
Fourth.
Third? Fourth?
Yeah.
Yeah,
fourth.
And who's that blocking already? Is that Petrov that's come through? Yeah, Petrov blocking Filippi there. So Petrov, the young Russian driver who qualified third for the race, and nearly contact there with Andy Zuber and Adrian Zaug. Zuber had a nasty looking accident yesterday when Andy Soucek spun in front of him, came back in front of him on the exit to Parabolica as they charged down towards the Ascari chicane. And really is the last of the late breakers there as they turn in. It looks like everybody gets through nice and neatly as they're... was that Tehinchi or was that Carroll?
That was Lapierre, I think.
Could have been, yeah.
The Dams car.
Very, the red and white cars of the FMS team and the Dams cars look very, very similar on our timing on our TV screens.
Very helpful for commentators, that is, yeah.
It does. There's Al diving out behind one of the BCN cars, and Borja Garcia there in the background looking like he's trying to make some progress. But it is Rosati still leading from Senna as they cross the line, but already Giorgio Pantano has somebody down the inside there. Pantano going for third. Has he got the move done? He does. That was very late out, Gareth.
Great move. Well, he was very late out, wasn't he? Didn't show at all. And that's
is that Nakajima or is that one of the FMS cars? Couldn't see who that is. Now that looks like Martin as well. Didn't even start the race yesterday. He had a gearbox problem that meant that he stalled on the grid, or he couldn't get the car off the line. We ride now on board with Olivier Pla, the Frenchman who was a 2 times winner in the first season, not been racing in GP2. No, is that Charles Negrao? He had a good run yesterday, but not working for him today, Gareth.
No, that move from Pantano was wonderful, wasn't it? Fantastic. Didn't show at all that he was going to make the move and just left at the low. Bit of contact there.
Now is that Conway?
Yeah, again.
Oh, Mike Conway. Well, there's a quote from the GP2 press office. Why does Conway bother? Because he gets caught up in everybody else's moments. And oh no, that explains what happened to Martinez. Caught the back of Zaug. And
what Conway did there was basically spin and avoidance. It was totally innocent there. He was 2 cars in front of him, collided. He had nowhere to go and just lifted to avoid an accident, and then the car spun round on him. Yeah, well, really unfortunate. Oh no, a big off in the background there. Somebody dropping a wheel off. In fact, running very wide at the exit of the Ascari chicane. Now, interesting results. He seems to be very confident. He seems to be actually putting some times in that are allowing him to be there on merit, as we see now. Pantano lining up Bruno Senna, and he's got that done very early. Yeah, great pass. Very straightforward. Did the slipstream working very effectively there, getting stuck down and into the braking area. Yeah, comfortably into 2nd place for Pantano. He's well on course to repeat what he did last year, isn't he?
Well, it's incredible. He's made so much time so quickly, and that really is the mark of just how quick that car is. Well, how quick Pantano is this weekend. Really has just been an absolute class of the field all weekend. Every session he's been right on it. And yesterday, every time we had any kind of incident where there was a safety car or a pit stop or anything that Filippi was giving us some entertainment yesterday, Gareth, with his moves on Nakajima, and he seems to have the same sort of head on today.
Yeah, he's scrapping for 6th place there, but getting involved with a bit of wheel bang and a bit of contact there.
And we see there Petrov coming through the shot. He's got Buemi just behind him.
Now, see Pantano on the left of the screen there, coming down the sort of right against the pit wall and just clearing the row in front quite comfortably.
He just got absolutely perfect getaway. Look at, you can see there that overhead shot. It's an absolute corker of a start. And the other thing is that you're in a situation like that, Gareth. You know yourself from as a race driver that you kind of almost concede that the path opens up.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, there's no planning that. You can't plan it. It just happens, or it doesn't happen. Conversely, but you see here, he just makes a decision to go right. He got such a good start. He was past the row in front in no time. He gets boxed in here. He goes for the inside, then actually gets moved over on and has to back off a bit and and settles for turning in 5th place.
Boehme was very, very lucky not to make contact with Senna by the looks of things there. And look at Glock round the outside. He's been quite aggressive for the first time. It looks like he maybe got caught up on those big curbs now. Pantano having a go, and he spun. Pantano spins, having a go at Rosati, comes back on. And has he got away with it? Well, he was so lucky not to get collected there, wasn't he, Gary?
He was very lucky. He did very well. He kept the gas in and kept the rears lit up to spin the car around to get it facing the right way.
Very, very lucky guy there, because that really did look like that was going to be a disastrous situation for Pantano. Already he's charging back through.
Yeah, it's dropped him to 8th place, I think. He's in front of Chandok, isn't he?
Well, Karan Chandok yesterday had a good run on as well. He did a very, very solid job. He seems to have certainly found some pace in the latter part of the year. The young Indian driver for Durango certainly stepping up from World Series by Renault. And Carroll, well, yesterday he had a shunt going off trying to defend from Boehme, and said, spoke to Lee McKenzie, who looks after his press stuff, and she said that it looked like he had a braking problem yesterday. Well, he did have a braking problem, and that's what caused him to go in a little bit too quick.
You can see here Pantano's move on Rosati I think was just a little bit optimistic, wasn't it? Got just a bit carried away. Rosati really had that corner to himself. Pantano came down the inside, realised it wasn't going to work, got it onto the curbs, and it just came round on him.
Well, that's got to be the greatest escape of the season, is it? It was, I mean, look, bang into the side pod. So clearly, by going sort of square on into the side pod, it's going to be less damaging than perhaps if you hit the wheel. Yeah,
definitely, or worse, the wing, because once the wing goes, you have to pit and get a new one, your race is over. But just a slightly optimistic move, just getting slightly carried away, I think, Pantano. But going back to Adam Carroll, yeah, he had a terrible race yesterday, really. I mean, his pit stop was terrible. I think a wheel got stuck on and cost him about 30 seconds. He rejoined well down the order and then got involved in a little incident which saw him end up in the gravel.
It was just one of those days for Adam. Clearly the pace is still there with Adam. He's certainly one of the drivers that's really shone since he came back into the championship, having raced in it obviously last year and the year before, but been focusing on his DTM commitments earlier in the year, but came back in as a replacement for Antonio Pizzonia and immediately was impressive. But Rosati seems to be dealing with the pressure very well, Gareth.
He does, yeah. I mean, I think the move on Pantano, or move from Pantano, should I say, he didn't see coming, and I didn't see it coming either. It came from a long way back, so he didn't have a chance to think about defending that or getting pressured by it. But certainly he's soaking up the Senna and Glocker now in 2nd and 3rd, and he looks pretty comfortable.
I think the key thing really is going to be, does Timo Glock think about going for it and trying to get the win, or is he going to settle for a solid haul of points? Looking at where De Grassi is now, he's in 6th position, so he is going to pick up a point, but at the moment I think
Glock will feel pretty comfortable he can do these two in front. You know, I mean, Senna had a good first part of the season but hasn't shown a great deal of pace latterly, and certainly Rosati is a newcomer to the series, so Glock will feel pretty confident he can take a full haul today.
You can see just how dirty it is offline. You can see there as they go across all the way over there. Filippi there all the way over on the dirty part of the circuit. You can see that's going to perhaps cause issues in terms of the level of grip, but seems to just be able to get it done in time as he turns in with the two ART cars behind now. I wonder if Boehme's been told to make it relatively easy.
Yeah,
well, that's certainly like he was making it very easy for De Grassi. Let's answer that question, isn't it, Gareth?
Yeah, that's to be expected. As fair, isn't it? I mean, you know, De Grassi's going for the championship, so it makes sense for your teammate to move over for you so you can get more points. So that puts De Grassi up to what's 5th place now, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see whether the race pace of De Grassi is significant enough to be able to close down Timo Glock, but you can see way over to the right there.
Yeah,
there's a bit of an area there where you'd think that from the officials' point of view, is that acceptable, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. If it's track there, then use it. Unless you've been specifically briefed in the driver's briefing beforehand not to use it, then it's all fair, it's all good.
Well, there's certain parts on some circuits where, for example, at Brands Hatch, there's the exit at Paddock Hill Bend where you have to, well, you don't have to, but you usually use an extra bit of road over the curbing to carry a bit of momentum. Glock, well, he's put under big pressure by Senna, but Senna, very intelligent, he just gives him a significant amount of racing room, and Glock, very neatly done, gets the power, and also, not only does he get it done, but he seems to be quicker than Senna out of the corner.
Yeah, that was a great move, wasn't it? And now he's going to maybe pick up a toe from Rosati and start putting the leader under pressure. But really neat move from Glock. I mean, he obviously started that move way back on sort of 2 or 3 corners previously.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? A circuit like Monza, where you really sort of set the overtaking moves up one or maybe even two corners before the fact that you want to be doing it into a braking area, as you can see there. Oh, well, there's a bit of moment there in the Grau and one of the BC cars. Is that Tung or is that Nima? I think it was Nima.
Yeah, I think it's Nima and Rodriguez, isn't it, down in 15th and 16th place.
Well, Rodriguez did one of the most overly optimistic moves of the year yesterday.
And got punished for it too. Yeah, he was made to start from the back row today, wasn't he? Or certainly punished 10 places for that move on Zuba yesterday. Yeah,
I mean, just came clattering down the inside. Poor Andy Zuba didn't even know he was there until there was a big whack into the side pod. But Rizzati, got to say, fair play to the guy. He's under pressure, being first time ever on pole position in a GP2 race. Only had a handful of races so far in his career. Been racing in Formula 3 in the past and World Series by Renault, and really has dealt with the pressure very well. But I think now he's got the championship leader in his mirrors. That's going to be a different situation, and certainly judging by the way that Glock dealt with Senna on the previous lap, there's clearly enough pace. Now Rizzati gets defensive. Is Glock going to go the long way round?
I think he probably won't. I think that might be optimistic. It's very dirty offline on that corner, so I think he'll just tuck back in and look to do him on the front straight down into the first turn. But he's got Philippi in his mirrors now, so Senna, I think, is one issue. Philippi has got more pace this weekend, and I think that will give Glock something to think about.
It's interesting there, as you can see now, Glock's thinking about it. He's going the long way round as he comes down into the first chicane, and he gets the job done nice and early.
So does Philippi.
Around the outside, Philippi down the inside as well. Wow, how did that one work? Can't believe that. Didn't. Was that Bruno Senna? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was. Senna just almost took Philippi out of the equation then. Came from a very long way back, didn't he? He had a great slipstream off the three cars in front of him, Senna, and almost overcooked it.
I think also the other two in front were so busy watching each other. Oh, is that Bruno? I think it is Bruno. So, well, there's the advantage of this new runoff they've got on the exit there of the Valiante della Roccia. That's clearly has worked in the advantage of a number of drivers this weekend.
Yeah, Senna's moving over now to let Philippi pass, I think. Yeah, otherwise you get penalised for making an advantage. But basically Philippi said, you ain't come around the outside of me, mate, get on the grass. Yeah, well, we've seen a couple of incidents there over the weekend, and it certainly has increased the bravery levels of people. I was talking to Richard Westbrook last night, who's racing in the Carrera Super Cup, and he was saying that curbing there has been raised overnight, and that's something that could potentially cause an issue. Wow. They got a face full of gravel then.
But doesn't faze him at all, does it? This is a man on a mission, isn't it? Now, that's Tahinchi. Well, Tahinchi has had a fairly mixed season. He's still really not quite ultimately on the pace, Gareth.
No, he's he's not an inexperienced GP2 driver now, but really hasn't proven any pace at all, and I'm not sure where he's going to go from here, to be honest with you.
Well, obviously the big lock up there. Now, was that a problem? As in, did he go straight on? Couldn't see where he ended up there.
So I think that looks like is Adam Carroll trying to desperately stay out of the way of the leaders by the look of it.
Now Pantano is putting big pressure on Sebastian Buemi, following the cars as he saw the onboard shot through the parabolica a couple of laps before. He could see Buemi's car was moving around so much, but the momentum clearly is there, and Pantano's so quick out the previous corner that he really took a lot of speed.
That's actually Di Grassi. He's done Buemi. He's actually all over championship contender Di Grassi, look, Pantano.
Well, that says something about Di Grassi's hopes, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of trying to take on Glock. Well, Glock's obviously using this situation to try and break away the Filippi, Senna and Rizzati battle, as it were, in the middle there. Is going to, hopefully, from Glock's point of view, hold everybody up sufficiently for him, allow him to get his head down and get away.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, they're having a great scrap, the cars behind, aren't they? But it is allowing Glock to get away, and I think this kind of little race here with Di Grassi and Pantano kind of sums up Di Grassi's performances this year. He's not really been a great one for charging through the field. That was the lockup, the big lockup we saw. That was never really on that, was it?
It was, yeah, he was never going to get that one stop, was it? And as we thought, he did actually straight line it, and you can see Rizzati now having a little look, or was that Di Grassi coming around the outside? Couldn't quite work out how that one panned out, but definitely looks now like Rizzati is starting to feel the pressure a bit, and both Di Grassi and now Buemi have got momentum, and of course Pantano is really the man who's totally on a mission in terms of lap times now. Pantano 1:34.283, so obviously that traffic is...
Oh, he's on his wing. Rizzati hit Di Grassi, didn't he then? And just took his front wing off. He just, there was some wreckage Wreckage went down the escape road with the car. Hopefully he hasn't damaged Degrassi's car.
Well, it doesn't look too bad, does it? It really looks like he might have got away with that relatively lightly. Now we saw.
And maybe it came off Degrassi's car. There was definitely something came off, didn't it? Something flew up in the air, yeah.
Now, Borja Garcia yesterday ended up going off as a result of his front wing folding underneath the car and basically lifting the car. It looked like, was that Chandok or Garcia? Somebody, definitely one of the Durango cars, going very slowly. And Mike Conway seems to be starting to get back in amongst things after his fairly dramatic first couple of laps. He got involved in that situation at Parabolica. And if ever there was a man who was due some luck, it's got to be Conway.
Yeah, I mean, Glock's had the kind of high-profile bad luck this year, isn't he? Because he's a championship contender. But to be fair, I think probably the bad luck, Mike Conway's had probably the most bad luck this year. It's been dreadful for him.
Chandok coming down the inside of Hoping Tung. Tung got taken out yesterday and by Nakajima, and that was what put Nakajima to the back with a penalty. And interesting now to see whether Glock can just edge away.
Yeah, exactly. There's a replay here of Rosati clipping the back of Degrassi and clumping the barrier. We still haven't established whether Degrassi's car is damaged, but hopefully not.
Let's have a look at the lap times. Well, Rosati's in now. Obviously, that contact, I wonder if most likely it's probably something to do with the suspension. Well, there you go. You can see they're having a good look around the front of the car. Well, very disappointing. And to be fair, the majority of the time he was putting up a pretty good show, considering that he'd never been in that sort of situation before in a GP2 race.
Yeah, I think he drove a pretty decent defensive race, didn't he? He was not certainly making strides to get away from anybody, but he drove quite well defensively and protected his position.
And this is his teammate Kohei Harati having a look down the inside of Marcus Niemöller and doing what so many other drivers have done. And certainly, I'm sure it won't be the last time we see somebody do that this weekend.
You're quite right about the kind of the change in the nature of the corner affecting the driver's kind of bravery and approach to the corner. Before, that was gravel. That tarmac area was all gravel. Now, moves like that you just wouldn't have seen because drivers knew that the penalty was just too great. They'd end up in a gravel race. And now they know they can be braver. They can go for moves they never would have considered, because if it goes wrong, they just drive straight across the tarmac and rejoin. So it does kind of change a driver's regard for the corner. I'm not sure that's always a good thing.
Yeah, with the bravery level kind of goes up. There was some comments about the next race that we go to. There's Rosati chatting with the team, explaining, telling some war stories. Some motorsport equivalent of a fisherman's tale, isn't it? Honestly, it wasn't my fault.
It was this big.
It's never my fault. Racing drivers, it's always someone else's fault or the car's fault. But Pantano, well, you know, he has been the class of the field this weekend in terms of lap times, and at the moment he's lapping 1:34.4. So he's obviously the incident that he had on that previous lap cost him a bit of time. But most importantly, can he now, with 10 laps down out of 21, can he managed to push his way forward from what's now 6th position to take on Boemi Degrassi? You asked the question earlier, Gareth, is Degrassi's car damaged? Well, look at the lap times, it wouldn't appear so.
No, it doesn't look like he's lapping just as quick as the guys around him, so I think he got away with that.
But Glock seems to be just gently edging away from Felipe. He's very good in this situation, Glock. He seems to be very confident when he's in a potential winning situation. Certain drivers tend to be looking in their mirrors as much as they are looking ahead, but Glock seems to be one of those guys who just gets his head down and just does his own thing, much like Pantano did yesterday.
Yeah, he's been hugely impressive on all fronts this year, Glock, hasn't he? Really, he's clearly very quick, clearly very intelligent, very thinks about the racing, doesn't get involved in silly incidents. If he's been involved, it's generally been someone else's fault, and he's been all round just super impressive.
So we watch as they come down into the now reprofiled Variante della Roggia chicane, and Chanduk now under a little bit of pressure from Petrov. Petrov impressive yesterday in qualifying. He's raced ruined a bit by the pit stop.
Yeah, he was going really well. I mean, when he pitted, he was lying in 3rd place, wasn't he? And came in, the right rear stuck on. They couldn't get it off during the pit stop, and it cost him a whole host of time. And he came out sort of down 18th, 20th place.
So it's actually Janji Negrao having a look around the outside there, and Rodriguez having a look around the outside there in the other of the Minardi PK sports cars. And is there a bit of contact there? Is a bit of wheel banging? Well, sort of. Kind of just about, discretion, better part about it. They've got those really nasty little rumble strips on that second part of the chicane there.
Yeah, you really don't want to hit those. I mean, they're like mini sleeping policemen. If you hit one of those in a car with such low ride height like these things, it's can actually do some serious damage. But back at the front, it's interesting. Philippi's keeping Glock very honest, isn't he? We said yesterday that Philippi's race pace was expected to be good. During free practice, he'd run a kind of a race setup with a bit more downforce, higher fuel load, and he'd been almost as quick as the guys running a qualifying setup. And that's borne out now. I think he's actually closing on Glock by about a tenth or so a lap. So we're down to just 1.1 seconds gap at the moment with eight laps to go. So it's actually going to be quite tight at the front, I think.
Also, yesterday we saw Filippi getting stuck in a fairly intense battle with Shanji Negrao, and generally looking like he had the pace but couldn't find the gap. So you wonder that had he been able to get that job done a little bit earlier, where he may well have been in terms of the gap. Yeah,
I agree. And I think what we're seeing now he's in clear air and able to chase after Glock, is we're seeing the true potential. We're seeing what actually he can do pace-wise.
Yeah, again, he's another driver that seems to enjoy having that sort of scenario where he can just concentrate on his own deal. In a race situation, as in a scrap. Yesterday, as we said, he had a pretty intense battle. Firstly with Shanji Negrao, then latterly with Kazuki Nakajima, and both of those drivers are certainly the guys that can really live with the car moving around underneath them, and the car sliding a little bit, tend to be able to find the pace in varying conditions.
Yeah, I mean the cars are very high spec. I mean when at this level, what's called Formula 3000 before it became GP2, but when this level went one make formula, because previously it was kind of free chassis formula, the cars were pretty agricultural, but GP2, ever since it became GP2 2 years ago, the cars have become mini F1 cars. They're very highly technically advanced, yet they're still a challenge to drive, and yet they still provide fantastic racing. Invariably the racing's very, very, very close, and Formula 1 could certainly look at this and learn a few lessons, I think.
Yeah, well, interesting, there's about to be a report published by this overtaking working committee that they talk about in Formula 1. And now I think you and I could probably come up with an overtaking working committee. It's called basically less downforce, bigger tyres, and cars which have got steel brakes on them, and I'm sure that would do the job, wouldn't it, Gary?
I think you're absolutely right. I think maybe the fact it's a committee involved is what the problem is.
Yeah, exactly, like so many things in industry and business, but he's potentially got the run down the inside into Lapierre, and I think
the problem with going that early is obviously you lose the benefit of the slipstream. Now down the straight, Zhu was making his own hole in the air, whereas if he just had stayed tucked in behind Lapierre would have made the hole in the air for him. I mean, he's got past him anyway, but it would have possibly made the manoeuvre easier at the end of the pit straight.
Yeah, Nicolas Lapierre, a winner at the start of the season, had one of those seasons so far. Lapierre, the very, now that's his teammate Nakajima in the pits. Can't see what the problem is there. Looks like a fairly slow stop, so clearly something more significant than just tyre problems.
I'm wondering if what he's going to do is basically stick 4 new tyres on and go for fastest lap.
And we were chatting about this yesterday, Gareth, the situation where sometimes you see some fairly unexpected drivers setting fastest lap of the race, where basically the race is not going to plan, so they come in, put tyres on and go out and just concentrate on just getting that point for fastest lap.
Yeah, we said then it's really kind of against the spirit of the whole race, isn't it? Fastest lap should reward the guy with the fastest race pace. Now you haven't got, it's not your race pace that's being measured if you're bolting brand new tyres on. That Pla going past, who was he behind, Niemöller?
That was, I think, one of the, may have been Carroll actually, I think, because it certainly looked like one of the FMS cars, and it looked like whoever it was had a problem of some sort. Certainly pulled over to the left and gave him a bit of room.
But it should reward fastest lap, the race pace. Pantano having a look at
Buemi again. Yeah, not quite as neat as the move that he did at the start of the race. That was really a nice,
more circumspect though. I think there was. I think he's maybe learned his lesson that he's not. Although he's quick this weekend, he's not quite as quick as maybe he thought he was.
Yeah, he's not indestructible, basically.
Exactly.
You can only take so many risks before sooner or later it bites you.
Exactly.
But look how late he is at the brakes.
Giorgio.
Look, it gives it the typical Latin hand-waving thing going on there, but Buemi there, look, I don't know whether he just braked too early or whether he had a problem of some sort, but certainly Pantano looked very much like he was caught out by that one.
Yeah, I'd like to see that again, but first glance tells me that Pantano just missed his braking point and he clipped poor old Buemi into a spin.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it was more of Pantano. Here we go. Talk us through it.
Well, difficult to see, isn't it? Because obviously we can't see where the braking point is from here, but it's so hard to tell. I mean, it could be argued that Buemi was early on the brakes, but that's obviously deceptive because Pantano was so late on the brakes, it made it look like Buemi was early on the brakes. So very hard to tell. But I think given that Pantano was doing the Italia, now is that sorry I hit you, or is that what are you doing, you idiot? That's hard to say, isn't it? But
well, I can think of his wing's done now, so that's it for Pantano in terms of a meaningful result.
I think looking at that, I would blame Pantano. Yeah, his wing is well skew if. And that's not, if he's not careful, that can come off and go under the car.
Now that's his teammate Petrov, isn't it? Where's that? I can't see which. Is that Parabolica? Well, yeah, that looks like Parabolica, doesn't it? Well, we had a couple of drivers having some offs there. Probably the best one in terms of spectacle was the Suchek and Zuber incident. Well,
I'd be worried about that front wing. I think the team really ought to be on the radio to him. The problem is if that wing dislodges and goes under the car, it lifts the front of the car and you lose all the steering. I know I've had it happen to me and it's not pleasant.
Yeah, it's literally that you're just basically driving a canoe.
Well, you're kind of in a canoe, but it's driving you, so it's not pleasant. Really, it's very dangerous. So he should really be called in.
Now, you talked about Parabolica yesterday, Gareth, saying that it really is the sort of corner that you're almost certainly going to get a lot of understeer through there, and it looked like possibly the case there for Petrov. It looked like just ran wide on the exit there and just understeered off. Now, Borja Garcia had exactly that situation you were talking about there, Gareth, in terms of the front wing folding underneath the car, and obviously with the way that these cars run, zero ride height basically, they're running almost on the floor. But you know, if that goes underneath, it's just literally going to lift the front wheels off the ground.
It's like driving a wedgie underneath the front of the car, exactly between the road and the car, and it lifts the front wheels off. Of course, then the back wheels are still driving, so you're still moving, but your front wheels, you've got no steering, no control over the car whatsoever, and really you end up going in the direction of the wing wants to take you.
I think he's aware of it now. He certainly seems to be conscious of the fact that having made that contact with Buemi would be aware that he potentially got that job. He's still going.
He's staying out. Wow, let's look at his lap times now have dropped to high 1:33, so he's about 2 seconds off the leaders, Glock and Philippi, and he's about a second off most of the rest of the field.
Oh, big lock up for Zuber there, very late on the brakes. Didn't need to do that because Pantano was always going to have to brake early because of his wing problem. So does Zuber now potentially have to let Pantano back through? But I think he'd actually got it done before the corner, so it was really a case of, well, now.
He's slowing to line pass, isn't he? Yeah.
Well, he obviously thinks that potentially that was an issue, but maybe he's aware that he may have noticed that Pantano, or the team have told him that Pantano's got that wing problem, and he's, you know, not really that worried about that. Suchek ran the outside. Well, nice, neat move done on open tongue, and Tongue now under a little bit of pressure from Rodriguez. Well, Rodriguez well and truly took Zuber out yesterday, so let's hope that he's a bit more circumspect. Now that's a really uncharacteristically large lock-up there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's obviously the late stage of the race, the tyres and the brakes have had a fair beasting. And also the drivers too, don't forget. I mean, these things are pretty physical. I think he obviously racing and just missed his braking point, and that's all it takes. The line between getting it right and getting it wrong is very fine, and Zuber just oversteps it there.
And this is where potentially you're going to see Pantano lose quite a lot of time, because you really are relying on that front wing holding the car down through there. Look at the momentum that Zuber's got. But interestingly, Pantano seems to have worked out a way of driving around the problem relatively well.
Yeah, he's making the most of it, isn't he? I mean, really, that should cause him a lot more problems than it actually is.
We look back from, is that Petrov's car I think we're looking back on? Could be, and Petrov just ahead of Buemi, so not quite sure if that was his car or not. It looks like the sponsor from one of the Campos cars on the back of that.
Pantano, actually. I think that still maybe is Zuber behind him.
I think you're right, guys.
Yeah,
it's Zuber,
yeah.
Oh, big sideways action on the way out there. Oh, is that a puncher?
Driving backwards.
I think that's a puncher, is it? Tinch, he looked like he had a problem there with the left rear. But to Hinch, he had certainly looks like he's always on the edge, doesn't he? So Pantano still bravely hanging on in there for a point. 2 laps to go. Clearly that he's feeling that he can potentially drive around the problem, assuming, as you said, Gareth, that wing doesn't come off and fold under the car.
That's the worry, but it seems to be lasting pretty well, and as you said before, it hasn't really affected his pace, which I'm amazed at. Really am. I mean, he's doing. He's dropped to 134 that last lap, but it's only a second or so off the general pace of the day, so that's pretty impressive.
But it looks also like he seems to be able to sort of check up a little bit. It's not exactly brake testing Zuber, but certainly holding him up to the point where Zuber's having to wait on him getting on the gas, and therefore he can't perhaps get the neat, smooth run out of the corner that he would like. No,
you can see there that the front wing is costing him downforce on the braking as well. He's just run wide, but as you said, doing a great job driving defensively and keeping Zuber behind. I mean, as you said, what you do is you get on the brakes just a fraction early, get the turning quite hard, because obviously you've got to do that because the front wing isn't helping with front downforce. And I think probably Zuber could push him harder. Maybe Zuber isn't aware that Pantano is sort of struggling with his handling. I think if Zuber could push him harder, he'd probably get past pretty.
And Pantano there
that's it.
Now, was that a letting him pass, or was that a
I don't
problem?
think so. I think probably first of all it's pretty difficult.
Himself as the man to beat this year. He takes another win for Timo Glock. Really has been the star of the season, and really does now look like he's starting to just get that momentum you need to win a championship at this stage in the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, importantly for him, de Grassi's come in 4th place, so he scores 3 points less than Glock does.
Now Chanduk there just trying to get that final points position, but I think Pantano just about did enough. Interestingly, the finish line's relatively early at Monza compared to the start line, so
yes.
That actually helped Hoping Tongue right at the end of the race there into the gravel. Whereas that looks like Parabolica, I think. And the Chinaman has really had a fairly dramatic weekend. It's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, Glock, that means he leaves here with a 13-point lead. So that's a nice little buffer. So that means that even if de Grassi wins the next time out, he'll still need to take fastest lap and pole to actually take the championship lead into Sunday morning. So it gives Glock a nice buffer now to de Grassi.
And of course we go now to the wonderful Spa-Francorchamps for the next round of the championship. A circuit that, interestingly, GP2's not visited before, so that's going to throw up some interesting situations in terms of teams and drivers and all the various shenanigans that could work out in terms of who's going to get the best balance. What's your thoughts going into
Pantano's wing has now turned full 90 degrees, is facing completely the wrong way. But yeah, it should be interesting. Spa, wonderful track and a real challenge. Very quick like Monza, but they don't run these very, very low rear wings. There's more to it than just straight line speed. You wouldn't want to be going through a Rouge, for example, with a wing like that. I mean, it's just too hairy, but a real great track and amongst the favourites for the drivers.
So it is Timo Glock by 1.814 seconds from Felipe. Bruno Senna, another podium. Good result for Bruno. Lucas de Grassi coming through after his dramas yesterday with a technical issue, dropping him out. Andy Zuber, despite the fairly major damage yesterday, another borrowed chassis from BCN, gets him into 5th. Pantano hanging on in there for 6th. Chanduk, Suchek, great result for him from the back. Rodriguez Conway after his spin early on. Kohei Hirate, Marcus Niemler and Vitaly Petrov round up the top 13. Olivier Pla from Buemi Carroll-Tung, Lapierre, Nakajima, Garcia and Tahinchi, the final finisher. Rosati, great result in terms of his performance, but not quite the end that he wanted. Bruno Senna, the young Brazilian, well, you don't need to explain the family connection really, but he is starting to now get that little bit of momentum going, where towards the end of the season he's starting to really show the form that he's going to need if he wants to mount a championship challenge for next year. Also that man there, Felipe, I think those two guys there, Senna and Felipe, are certainly guys we're going to have to consider for potential championship contenders next year.
Yeah, I mean, Felipe obviously he's in his second year now. I think he probably would have been expected to have put a more consistent challenge in this year. We've seen him be very quick on occasion, But I think needs to, if he's going to do it next year, he needs to be quick every weekend. And at the moment, he hasn't managed that this season.
Yeah, it's certainly been a little bit up and down, but the pace is clearly there. It's a little bit worrying, isn't it, for the drivers? They do their weight checks. Looks in pretty good shape, Timo, after that race. Certainly not as demanding as the race yesterday. So, Timo Glock, Bruno Senna and Luca Filippi will take the podium in just a moment. And really have to say that Timo Glock's weekend, which started in a fairly disappointed way, he's worked his magic. He's got himself onto the podium yesterday and a race win today. And it looks like it's Timo Glock's championship if it continues like this.